Howdy from Texas, this is Heath Hipple with Bugs Fishing, and today I'm going to teach you how to tie the Trout Thumper Swim Bugg. That's a mouthful, I know, but that's what it's called, the Trout Thumper Swim Bugg. Now, this is not quick and easy, it's not simple, it's not that it's terribly complicated, but there's lots of steps. And so my advice on this one is to definitely plan on tying 4, 5, or 6 of them at least. And what you're going to do, you'll tie the same step 4 or 5 times. By the end, you'll get good at it, and one would take you 20 to 30 minutes, but 5 or 6 isn't going to take you 5 or 6 times that long. So get ready for that. So this is the Trout Thumper Swim Bugg. Why? Who cares? Why would you want to tie this? It's a 4-inch long paddle tail swim bait. Everything we fish for eats this profile and eats a lure like this. There's some really awesome movement to it. It's weighted in the middle, so it'll fish a little bit differently than a head weighted soft plastic. It's accounted for my personal best speckled trout down in Baffin Bay. Like I said, everything will eat this, freshwater or saltwater. So I hope you're ready, and I hope you'll tie a bunch of them and then go fish them. Here we go. So we're going to start, actually, we're not going to start with a hook, we're going to start with a shank extension. It's 1 3/4 inches long, and we're going to put that in the vise. So this is a new component, and I had these made so I could get the profile I was looking for this lure. And so I've taken a Bugs screw lock, pushed it all the way up to the jaws, and now I'm going to start the thread on that shank extension, and I'm going to wrap it all the way up. Just as a rule of thumb, you want to put thread over the hook shank, and in this case a shank extension. It helps keep materials from slipping and helps your jigs last longer. I hope you're ready for a little bit longer instruction today, but I promise it'll be worth it. Okay, so I'm wrapping the screw lock on, and I'm going to wrap it there, and I'm going to wrap it all the way back, and I'm wrapping it tight. And I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put 3 of these whip finish knots on the screw lock. I don't want it to move because this is what's going to hold our tail on, and it needs to stay in place. And so you put 3 of these on there and it won't go anywhere. Okay, now that I've done that, that screw lock will not go anywhere. And now I'm going to bring the thread past the tag. That's probably about 1/4 inch, and we're ready for the next step. All right, so next I'm going to be using a cross-cut rabbit strip piece. This color we're tying is Electric Chicken. We're going to palmer this on, and when you're tying a piece of rabbit on, you're going to palmer. It's easiest if you cut the rabbit at an angle, and so I'm going to cut the end there, and so you can see how that is cut at an angle right there. And it'll kind of make sense why that's easier once you start tying it in. So I'm going to put this right there, and then I'm going to secure that angled piece. It just makes it easier to tie in. I'm going to put a 6-turn whip finish knot, pull that tight. Okay, and now I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to set it aside. The hook we're going to be using is a 4/0 Eagle Claw saltwater jig hook. So we're going to put this in the vise next, and then we're going to wrap the shank with thread. By the time this gets posted and edited and posted, I will be back from Nicaragua, but it's kind of exciting because today, as I'm tying this, it's a Thursday, and I leave on Friday. I'm sorry, I leave on Monday to go to the factory in Nicaragua to get the first set made, the first production run, so I'm really excited. Okay, so took the thread all the way down there. I made a half hitch at the end, and I'm going to bring the thread back, and we're going to tie in the eyes next. Okay, and I want these eyes to be 3/8 of an inch from the inside of the bend. Okay, so 3/8 from the inside of the bend. I need to back the thread up just a little bit. It's important to get this correct, so we are good right there. Important to get this correct so we leave ourselves enough room to tie a nice head, tie in the nose, make sure all the materials are in the right place, and so we terminate the thread at the right spot. Okay, so when I'm tying in these eyes, I'm going to do figure eights on the bottom, I'm going to do figure eights on the top. And I measured it, and so I know I'm good, but I just want to make sure. So yeah, we're good. 3/8 of an inch. Okay. Half hitch right there. Okay, so now I want to bring the thread right back here. Do another half hitch. Okay, now it's time to put that shank extension, to tie the shank extension onto the hook. And so I want to line it up. Okay, and I didn't mention this before, but when I tie it on this cross-cut piece of rabbit, it's going back that way. And so that's how you want to have it. So I want to line this up to where the little tag from the screw lock is even with the hook bend. See that right there? So that's where I want to line it up. And so I want to start wrapping that on there. I'm going to turn it over and make sure it's in the middle before I get the wraps too tight. And so now that I know that's in the middle, I can start making tighter wraps. So I'm going to do 5 or 6 turn whip finish there. And then, okay, so you'll notice right here, as the hook goes that way, the shank extension goes straight. And so you want to make, I'm going to make thread wraps, towards the place where they separate from the hook, separates from the shank, but I'm not going to pull too tight right there because I don't want that shank extension to bend. I want it to keep it straight profile. So I'm going to bring my thread up there like this, but I'm not going to really crank down on it until I get right back down here where they're even again, and I'm going to do another whip finish. Okay, so that's not going anywhere. Next, I'm going to tie in my weed guard pieces and be using 40-pound mason. And what I've done, I've cut a 5-inch piece, and I'm going to double it, cut it in half. I'm going to line those pieces up. I'm going to tie them in on the top of the hook. So I'm going to hold them with my right hand, make 3 or 4 wraps with my bobbin, and that will keep it in place as I get it in the right spot. So what I'm doing here, I want the ends of the mason weed guard pieces to line up with the hook point. Okay, see there, so they line up with the hook point. And so now I'm going to start tying them in. Go back this way, and as I bring the thread here, I'm just going to keep it, use my fingers to keep it straight on top. Okay, so I'm going to do another finish knot right there. And now, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to spiral wrap the eyes, but I'm not going to bring my thread beyond the eyes. And so if you'll just watch, so I'm spiral wrapping, but I'm not bringing my thread in front of the eyes. Okay. So now, not right there. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my thread back on to where the shank extension, back over right, it's on both the shank extension and the hook shank. Okay, for this one, okay, I'm going to use an 1/8 ounce belly weight, and I'm going to put the weight right up against the eyes, and you kind of push it down on onto that groove. And actually, see how the belly weight has kind of a rough piece and a smooth piece? I'm going to put that rough piece away from the eyes. Okay, and I'm gonna make my thread wraps to secure that belly weight. I'm doing the middle ones towards the back first, because again that that's making sure the belly weight is straight. If I tied them right here, if I crank down right here first, it might tilt the belly weight a little bit, and I want it to be straight. And so I'm gonna bring my thread just this side of that belly weight. Okay, I'm about to palmer that cross-cut rabbit strip, and I'm gonna do 3 times on the shank and 1 time right here. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, and I'm going to tie this off. I'm going to tie this off on top. I'm sorry, on the bottom of the hook. So you kind of separate the hairs with your fingers, and then bring your thread through there 3 times. You can let go of that, and you can cut that cross-cut rabbit. It won't go anywhere. Okay, so cut that. Now I'm gonna do a whip finish knot right there, so that doesn't go anywhere. Okay. This cross-cut piece is serving as the kind of transition between the body of the lure and the tail. Okay. So the belly of this lure is Magnum rabbit strip, and we're gonna do a technique where we're gonna bury both ends, and we're gonna bury it back here first, and I'll show you what to do. So I'm grabbing the end where the rabbit extends like this, and I'm going to pull these hairs back. Okay, and I'm going to tie it in hairs facing down, and I'll explain why I'm doing this in just a second. So I'm going to tie it. So I've talked about this before. When you tie in a new piece of rabbit, leaving the tag end right there will help keep it from pulling out. So I don't want this to go anywhere, so I'm going to put a pretty stout knot in there. And so why did I tie in the belly like that? Because I don't want the belly to extend that way, and I want to be able to pull it forward, and the hairs are going like they're supposed to. But it's not time for that yet. Okay, so that's done. And now for the 1/8 ounce version of this jig, you need 9 inches of Krystal Flash Chenille. See that? And this is the fluorescent fuchsia color, hot pink, same thing. So I'm going to tie this in right over the top of those thread wraps where I just tied the belly piece of rabbit. Same thing, little whip finish here. All right. So now we have the flash that's going to make going to be palmered on the middle. We have the belly piece tied in. Now we're going to put those bend and put the weed guard into place. And so bring your thread forward. Do a little half hitch right here. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to physically bend the pieces forward. Okay, and we're going to make several thread wraps. We're going to use the eyes as leverage, and this is going to take several wraps, and so just be patient with the process. But you're holding them in place with your thumb and forefinger just like this, and you're making thread wraps. And we'll put a half hitch in here in a second and check our progress. Okay, see, they're starting to go in the right direction. We're not there yet. We're continuing to do this. So it always happens that your back piece doesn't come forward as much, and we're going to fix that in just a second. But I want to get this, I want to get it going more in the right direction here. Okay, now we're getting close. So at this point, the front piece is where I want it, and this back piece or far piece isn't. So what we're going to do, we're going to isolate the back piece. We're going to bring it forward. Then we're going to wrap our thread. We're going to skip that front piece, isolate that back piece, and get it going in the right direction. See? Now they're pretty much together. So we'll make one more right there, and then, whoops. So let's make one more wrap, isolating this one, this back piece, so it's okay. So now they're together. Check it right here. They are in line with the hook. All right. We're going to do a little knot here around the eyes, so those don't go anywhere. Okay. Now we're going to put some hard as hell head cement on those thread wraps because we don't want that weed guard to go anywhere. So as I was saying, I may have not measured the weed guard correctly. This is about as short as it could be, as it should be. This is fine and it works. I wouldn't have it any shorter, so maybe I didn't measure that 5 inches. But anyhow, so now we're going to bring the thread a little bit past the eyes, a couple of turns, and now we're going to cut the thread. Now we're going to switch to the new thread I've been using called Veevus. It's hard to see. There we go. It's Veevus Iridescent. It's a thick multi-strand thread, and it's going to serve two purposes on this lure. One is going to be to reinforce the flash, make it more durable, and the other is going to be to give it a little accent color in the middle. So we're going to start the thread right here, just past the eyes, do a little half hitch, cut the excess, and just leave that right there. Now we're going to palmer the Krystal Flash Chenille in the middle, and I'm pulling back the rabbit hairs, and so I want to palmer, I want to cover up all that thread. And so I'm going to palmer this pretty thick. Cover up the belly weight. Okay, now, okay, so we're right up there to the eyes. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do a figure 8 on the bottom. Okay? Figure 8 on the bottom, and then I'm going to pull it around the weed guard Okay, and then I'm gonna wrap it once and then twice. Okay, now I'm gonna use this Veevus thread to tie off this Krystal Flash chenille. 3 times will do it. Cut the excess, and I'm gonna tie off with that Veevus little, hold on. 3 turns there to make sure that Krystal Flash chenille doesn't go anywhere. At this point, I like to cut the excess chenille fibers from where the knot's going to be, just to clean that up, because it's going to get in the way of our knot, and that's a tricky part. And so I'm going to cut those fibers. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the Veevus thread and I'm going to go around the eyes all the way here, 1/2 inch, and all the way back. And this is going to make it more durable, and it gives us a little accent color, although on this it's kind of hard to see. So I'm wrapping it all the way back. Whoops, I need to tighten this. There we go. All the way back, 1/2 inch. And then back towards the eyes. So it's more visible on some of the other colors in this jig, in this fishing lure, but you can kind of see it in there. But this stuff is tough, and it's going to make it more durable. 3 turn there. Okay. Cut the excess. And now we're going to put our Danville 210 Denier. Yeah, there's some little fibers right there. Clean that up a little bit. Okay. Put my Danville thread back on the hook and bring it over the top of that Veevus knot and do a 1/2 inch. All right. At this point, turn it over. We're going to pull this belly strip forward. Pull it pretty tight. Going to kind of separate it with our fingers here. This is where a bodkin kind of comes in handy, to kind of make sure you kind of have it even right there, but we're in good shape. And so I'm going to tie, see where the thread is right there, right up against the Krystal Flash chenille. That's where my thread's going to go. I'm going to make sure this is tight and it's kind of even in the middle. Okay. Got 3 or 4 times through there, and you can relax, you can let go, and it won't go anywhere. And so, okay, as I see that right there, my thread needs to be a little bit further back, and so I'm going to start that over. The head, I want to, this lure is a lot of work, and it's really frustrating when the head doesn't clean up like it's supposed to. One of the ways to avoid that is to tie in this piece of rabbit a little bit further back. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move my thread a little bit further back, and I'm going to separate these hairs a little bit more. Okay, that's better. All right, now that's more where I want it. Now I'm not going to cut the rabbit right up next to the thread. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tag on the rabbit, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Okay, so there's a little tag on the rabbit. I'm going to cut these hairs off. Okay, I'm going to do a 3-turn whip finish there. Make sure that doesn't go anywhere. Okay, now this came through trial and error, but I'm going to there's several steps we're going to do here to make sure we have a nice clean head. One, there's my tag on the rabbit. I'm going to cut that to kind of a blunt point. Okay, just like that. Now, I'm going to tie in, okay, Fluoro fiber is next. This is hot pink. I'm going to cut about 10 pieces from one side of it. Cut them close to the tie. So here are my 10 pieces. I'm going to fold them in half. Line up the ends, fold them in half. I'm going to cut it again. And I'm going to fold it again. And again, line up the ends. So this is going to be the throat. And I'm going to tie this in right here. Okay. A 3-turn knot here. Make sure that doesn't go anywhere. I've got a couple of these extra fibers right here. Just going to snip. All right. Now it's time to do, so the bottom is done. Okay. The top is going to be a Magnum strip also, and I'm going to start by cutting it to a point. This tapers it a little bit. I don't know how much difference it makes, honestly, but it's just something I got in the habit of doing, and so that's why. Okay. So cut that to a point. Okay. I'm going to kind of pull these hairs down, because this is an important step here. Okay, so if you can imagine, we're going to have to cut 2 slits in this Magnum rabbit piece. You line it up. You're going to line up the tip right here with the tip of the screw lock, okay? And we're going to have to cut 1 slit for the hook and 1 slit for the double weed guard, okay? So we're going to cut the hook first, and I'm kind of going to measure it, you know, with my thumb right here, okay? And so I'm going to use an X-Acto knife. I'm going to cut, you know, 1/8 of an inch. So I made that cut for the hook, and now I'm going to put it back, and I'm going to, the top piece of rabbit, you're going to put it over the hook, and you're going to pull it pretty tight, and then you're going to slip it over the weed guard pieces. And so if I know I'm going to do that, right here is the end of that slit that I cut. I'm going to put that up against the hook right here. Then I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to measure where I need to make the slit for the weed guard pieces. And so I'm going to make it in between my thumbs. This can be a little bit longer cut. Kind of give ourselves some wiggle room right here. So there's that. So there's 2 slits cut in there. Let's see if I did it correctly. So the first one, take it out briefly, pull it down. Secure it, okay? Remember what I said we're going to do? We're going to pull it tight. Okay, now if I did my job, there they go. All right. So this is tight. There's not much of any gap right there, which is how I wanted it. The weed guard is still in place, so we're in good shape. So now we're going to separate the hairs here. Like I said, this is where a bodkin comes in handy. So put it right along the hide. And the rest I can do with my fingers. So I'm going to pull it pretty tight. There's not a gap. And I'm going to make, and I want to make the thread wraps. I want to make it kind of up and down, even with the ones from the bottom. So I want those kind of be straight up and down, just like that. You know, 3 or 4 to keep it in place. Okay, that's good. Now, same deal here. You're not going to cut it right next there, you're gonna leave a little bit of a tag. So I'm gonna cut it like this, and if it's a little bit too long, that's not a problem. Okay, cut the hairs there. Okay, I'm gonna put a finish knot there. Make sure that doesn't go anywhere. Okay, now same deal here. You see our little tag? We're gonna cut it into a point, and I'll tell you why in just a second. So we have to terminate a Magnum piece on top and a Magnum piece on the bottom to a point right here. And so what I learned was if I didn't cut this and the bottom into a point, it was really difficult to get a nice clean nose right here, because the thread would always want to come back up here. It wants to come back up there anyway, but I found that this gave me the best chance of making a nice clean head. So let's see if this worked. So top's in a point. So I've made a whip finish knot right here. Okay, now I'm going to bring the thread down here, and I'm going to make a whip finish knot right at the bend and keep the thread from going up there. And this is more aesthetics than anything else. You know, I don't think you're going to get refusals because that thread goes up there. It's just annoying, and it's not how I wanted it to look. And so I'm going to, okay, but I think it's still going to want to do that. Okay. Yep, look at that. It's still, okay, it's going up just a little bit, but I'm going to see if I can keep it from slipping anymore. I think we're going to be okay. And then you kind of fill in the middle. See, I didn't cut a good enough point into the bottom. I think I cut it too short, but I think it's still going to be okay. That's not perfect, but that's going to work. And when I say perfect, I mean it's just aesthetics. But, oops, this is going to be fine. And this is the final knot. Pull it really tight. Okay. Cut it. We're going to put hard as hull head cement on there. And we're going to let that dry, so that we are almost done. All right, now we're going to put the tail on, and so I'm going to kind of pull this back, blow the hairs out of the way. And so when I'm putting the tail on, okay, the screw lock holds the tail, but this pin will center it. And so the tail, the boot, I want it to be facing down, so that's how I'm going to start. So I'm going to line up this pin with the center of the tail and push it to the screw, push it there, and then I'm going to do once, twice, 3 times. So it's like it should be there. There's the Trout Thumper, ready to fish. So congratulations on tying your Trout Thumper Swim Bug. Let's talk about how it's constructed and how you're going to work it. So as we saw when we were tying it, the weight is right there in the middle, so it will fall evenly, and you can cast it out there. I like to work the entire water column, cast it out there, let it sink, and then you can reel it more evenly along the bottom, and the tail will engage, or you can give it twitches and the tail will engage also. You can fish like I said, fish the entire water column. The heavier ones, of course, will sink faster and it'll be easier to get down. But you know, work it like you would a soft plastic. You know, more even retrieve, twitching it. You know, let the fish kind of dictate what they want that day.